So this week, as we're seeing the price action unfold with the certain stocks we're going to be covering today, it does appear that it's a different week than we saw last week. Not that it's terrible and that we're getting major types of sell-off that's catastrophic, but compared to last week, I saw CTM move higher. I've seen BBAI hold, and now I'm asking myself one question. Are we going to finish the week strong, or is this the type of week where lots of retail buyers get shaken out? And what I have been hearing from other investor communities is they feel as if the latter is more true than the first option that I mentioned. Because as me and you both know, investors and traders especially like buy in whenever there's lots of momentum to the upside and get in on a trade to the long side, usually do it for emotional reasons, and FOMO is what's driving their decision to buy shares of a company or to buy any option contracts. But on this channel, I do my best to show that, in my personal opinion or in my approach when handling the stock market, I like to set my emotions aside and control them in the best way that I possibly can. And I've been spending my weekend doing as much research as I can when it comes to look at PR, investor presentations, and other articles, and just looking not just for opportunities, but deeper information for the stocks we cover on this channel. Because if you own stocks like CTM, CSQ, BBAI, and Redwire, I do know that you guys appreciate the transparency that I give on this channel. And again, hey guys, it's David with InvestQ, and a lot of the research and stock discussions actually happen in my free InvestQ community before the videos even come out. I post weekly CTM updates, quantum stock coverage, daily watch lists, and fast breaking news reactions throughout the week. And if you want to stay ahead of what I'm watching in the market, feel free to join the free InvestQ community. First link in the description below. That I give on this channel. And again, disclaimer, this is not financial advice. Do your own due diligence and do your best to make the best educated decisions when it comes to your portfolios. But all I'm trying to say is I try to do my best to give the facts the way that they are without any emotions being in the videos that I make out to you guys. And I do think that this week matters, especially if you're more on the short-term trades. But without going on too much of a rant, the point of this video that we're going to be doing today is I want to be breaking down Castellum CTM, CSQ, BBAI, and talk a little bit about Redwire as well. And the biggest questions heading into the rest of this week, such as, after we having sell-off activity in some of these stocks, can we finish the week higher? Can these stocks continue even higher than they did last week after the sell-off? And are investors becoming too pessimistic and too emotional due to the recent sell-off in certain stocks we've seen? So one thing that I've learned is that they always tend to show up in a negative way. And by they, I'm talking about mainstream media and retail investors whenever they see a little bit of a dip in price action. Because I've shown you the prophecy in Claude and I've shown you the prophecy AI app chart right here. But when we look at the technical chart, check it out. BBAI down on the day 4%. You're going to see CSQ, LAES. LAES, they had a good day actually. So after the market closed, they closed the day at the price of $3.71, holding strong. Castellum CTM, they closed the day on with a small loss. They also had a 5% loss on the day, nothing too crazy, but enough to get emotional traders to be upset, I would say. And then Redwire specifically, let's see how they did. So pretty much almost a break-even day with a small loss of 48 cents, but not at where the highs were from last week at, what does that say, $26.64. So as Warren Buffett has stated, and I've said on this channel many times, is the fact that the stock market, especially for you long-term investors out there, is a tool that transfers money from the impatient to the patient. And Peter Lynch also says that know what you own and know why you own it. Because if you do that and you have conviction and a thesis in place, you're going to be less likely to be one of the emotional participants in the stock market and avoid panic selling, especially when you see something like a 5% down day or even more. And the first thing, when we talk about the individual stock specifically, let's go into what I saw with Redwire. Redwire, the company just secured another major contract, a 15 million follow-on order from the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence for its Stalker UAS to support advanced individual training. Now, the reason that this matters is because this wasn't the first order. It was reportedly the third order from this customer in roughly 8 months. Now, bringing the total, what that does is it brings the total recent orders to nearly 25 million. The exact number, let me pull it up right here. The exact number was at, I know it was just under 25 million. Let me find it for you guys. Yeah, 24.8 million right here in recent orders. There you go. And that tells me that this isn't simply a one-time sale. This looks more like repeat business, which is a good green flag, a good sign for the company Redwire. And the bigger picture when it comes to the stock is Redwire is increasingly becoming more than a space stock. We're talking about things like drones, space infrastructure, defense technology, AI-enabled systems, and that's exactly where government spending continues flowing. Now, so I just wanted to do a little quick discussion about that, and then when we hover over to Castellum CTM, again closing the day red at 83 cents with a 5% loss on the day. CTM continues being one of the more interesting stories in my portfolio personally because not necessarily the price action of the stock, but which this is actually good, solid price action. Again, we're holding strong above the 80 cent level, which was previous resistance, above the breakout candle, where where there were sellers that would step up, but now buyers are not allowing the stock to move and stay below the previous resistance levels at 80 cents. So that is solid structure for a upward trend for Castellum CTM. And we've discussed how Glenn Ives has talked about going toward roughly $150 million APR from around the current $50 million range. And the market hasn't fully priced in that possibility, but the question becomes, can management actually execute? And when I talk about execution, being able to execute, I'm talking about will there be, we're looking at things such as acquisitions, completing acquisitions, developments with XRA, AI strategy, new government contracts, and seeing more continued institutional interest for the stock. Now, looking at SEALSQ, a quick run through with SEALSQ, they have had a lot of PR recently. If we check out their website, you're going to see here that 2 articles came out today. And last week, there were 3 articles that came out last week. And I like the company and how it's trying to build an entire ecosystem rather than just focusing on being a pure quantum play. Because the story when you talk about SEALSQ specifically, and keep it, just so you all know, I will be breaking down these 2 articles that came out today regarding the acquisition and this right here, the majority investment in Wecan Group. But going over the topic of what we're going to be talking about in this video, since they're not just a pure quantum play, they're just not a pure quantum play. The story and the narrative is broader than that because you got quantum, cybersecurity, semiconductors, AI infrastructure, and defense all put into a single ecosystem. And if the narrative for the company continues gaining traction, the question is, does the market eventually stop valuing SEALSQ as a speculative quantum company? And does it actually start to finally value it as a broader technology platform? And last but not least, we're going to be covering a little bit of BBAI. Now with BBAI, we still are seeing that they're holding above the $5 price level. Now, they have had a little bit of sell-off this week. No biggie. But BBAI is one of the more controversial names in the artificial intelligence space because despite earnings volatility, the bigger story remains the same, that you have government artificial intelligence, defense AI, decision intelligence, national security, and you got that big question that people continue asking is that if artificial intelligence spending continues accelerating, if that does continue to accelerate, can Big Bear AI position itself as a meaningful government artificial intelligence provider? So Heading into the rest of the week, because it's Tuesday right now, I think investors need to stop focusing on the one thing that really trips them up, which is none other than the price action. And they need to start focusing on another thing. They need to focus on the fundamentals, the financials, and the catalysts that can come out in the coming days and weeks for these individual companies, or these individual stocks. Because if the companies that I mentioned here continue executing the way that they have been, this could become another green week. But if expectations get too far ahead of reality, the market could remind everyone at a very quick rate that stocks don't move in a straight line, because as me and you both know, it doesn't just go in a linear, in a long enough time frame it goes in a linear path, but in the short term, you're going to get a lot of pullback action, choppy sideways activity, and you're going to see a lot of price action volatility, especially with these stocks right here, because these are not stable long-term companies. Like some dividend stock like EPD, for example. Yeah, it's not going to be something that's more on the stable line where you see a continued uptrend and it stays at that certain price level for a long amount of time. For example, when you see something like BBAI, the chart would look a lot different compared to something like EPD, just a constant upward trajectory. You got lots of sideways activity. So each stock individually, from a price action perspective, the story is always going to be different from a stock to stock basis. So I want to know below what it is you think about these four companies, and please let me know what it is you want me to cover in future upcoming videos. And do you think with these four companies, that they're going to finish green on the week? Or do you think it's a trap that is going to shake out a lot of enthusiastic buyers that came in from the end of last week to the beginning of this week? Let me know below in the comment section. And if you did enjoy this video, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe button, as I do appreciate all the support from you guys. But with that being said, Dave with InvestQ out. Stay safe, keep making good decisions with your long-term portfolios, and I'll see you all in the next video.